Good morning. Today we'll discuss about the compact fluorescent lamps and the LED lamps. In the last lecture, we have gone through the incandescent lamps and the fluorescent lamps. We have seen what are the advantages and the limitations of incandescent and fluorescent lamps. In today's class, we will see the compact fluorescent lamps and LED lamps, and after that, I hope that by the completion of this lecture, you will be able to compare the features of all the types of lamps which we have discussed so far. So I'll start with compact fluorescent lamps and then I'll move on to LED lamps. I'll say what are its important characteristics, and at the end we will make a quick comparison of the properties of all the types of lamps so that you can make a choice of any of these lamps for your domestic applications. So, coming to compact fluorescent lamp, we have seen in the last lecture about the standard fluorescent lamps. We have seen that the tube lights are a type of fluorescent lamps which do work on the principle of fluorescence, which means that some particles, when they hit the fluorescent screen, then automatically we do get lights. So it is just like there will be a cathode which will be releasing your particles. So these particles are allowed to move in a glass chamber which is basically coated with a phosphorus type of material or any earth phosphorus metals. So all these phosphorus materials do have the property of luminescence, which means that, fluorescence. So what does it mean? That when any particle hits it, they will automatically emit the light. So when you provide some voltage to the cathode, when it releases some electrons, when they hit this fluorescent screen, because your chamber will be just coated with fluorescent on the inner sides, with some fluorescent material, normally with the phosphorus, any earth materials which include phosphorus. So when they hit it, you will experience a light. And we have seen that this compact fluorescent, the standard fluorescent lamps, they have a small warm-up time, and there is a little bit problem with adjusting the lighting or illumination of the fluorescent lamps. And the biggest problem is that they were generally tubular in structure. Normally we will be having a smaller size, 48 inches, and they will be up to 84 inches or a little bit bigger also. So those were the standard fluorescent lamps. On contrast, compact fluorescent lamps have been developed. CFL stands for compact fluorescent lamps. They are very much smaller. They are tubes still, but as the name implies, they are basically compacts. They have been developed particularly to replace the incandescent lamps. You see, incandescent lamps are generally placed in holders, right? Whereas tube lights, they'll be placed just like your tubular type of structure. So they were not essentially replacing the incandescent lamps which were just fitting into a folder in a very small space. To overcome that one, compact fluorescent lamps have been designed. Now we will look into the compact fluorescent lamps. So standard fluorescent lamps, they are available in tubes, whereas CFLs are much smaller, and they are designed to replace standard applications for incandescent lamps. And fluorescent lamps are basically efficient and also long lasting. So that's why fluorescent lamps have been developed, and compact fluorescent lamps have been developed to exclusively replace the incandescent lamps. So they can be fitted into existing lamp fixtures used for incandescent lamps, and they do hold all the properties of fluorescent lamps. So when compared to an incandescent lamp, which gives the same amount of visible light, CFL uses less power, about 20 to 30%, and still has a longer life. An incandescent lamp, most of the energy is wasted in the form of heat, which is not utilized by us. Whereas in compact fluorescent lamp, they emit very cool white lights, and that's why they use less power, because there is no question of any heating there. And also they do have high life. Incandescent lamps generally they have a lifespan of 1000 to 2000 hours, whereas CFLs they do have 10 times more. They can be up to 10,000 to 15,000 hours also. Whereas coming to the components, They do have a gas-filled tube and also a ballast, which can be an electronic or magnetic. So it is just like a small type of material which is generally attached to one end. Just like your incandescent lamp which you will be having, there will be a holder, right? And that one you will be having a small material which we call it as a cathode. Similarly, ballast will be there in a CFL. When an electric current from the ballast flows through the gas, it causes ultraviolet lights. And this UV light then excites a phosphorus coating which is there on the inside of the tube, which emits your visible lights. So that's the same principle of your fluorescent lamp. See, these are the compact fluorescent lamps. See here, you do have the same type of material you do have the same type of structure which you use for your incandescent lamps. The same thing which we do have. The only thing is that this, instead of using a tungsten filament, a glass chamber, we are replacing it with just like a fluorescent type of tube. Now, what is the biggest difference between fluorescent and compact fluorescent lamps? We have seen fluorescent lamps in the last one, but now compact fluorescent lamps we are using. So what is the major difference? You might be getting it out. So the simple difference is that both differ in the size and shape. See, the traditional fluorescent lamps, they are very long and tubular lights, right? Just like your tube lights. And they do require special fixtures and ballasts to operate. They do require special fixtures. They should be placed here in a holder type of thing. And they come in various lengths, such as 2 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet tubes. Whereas CFLs, they are very compact. And normally they do have a spiral shape, as I have already shown you. And they are particularly designed to fit into a holder of an incandescent lamp. They can be directly fitted into lamp sockets and fixtures. So this makes them more versatile and suitable for a wide range of applications. See, they are designed to fit into standard lamp sockets and fixtures, which are generally used for incandescent lamps. So this makes them more versatile and suitable for a wide range of applications. This is the biggest difference between a compact fluorescent lamp and a fluorescent lamp. And the second one is energy efficiency. More or less, both are very efficient when compared to that of incandescent lamp. But when we compare fluorescent and compact fluorescents, the CFLs have a little bit higher edge when compared to the traditional fluorescent lamps. They use much less amount of energy when compared to incandescent lamps. But when compared to fluorescent lamps, CFLs use still smaller energy. So they are considered to be more efficient when compared to traditional fluorescent lamps. And coming to lifespan, it is observed that CFLs do have a longer lifespan when compared to traditional fluorescent lamps. But still, fluorescent lamps, they can last around 10,000 to 20,000 hours, with this one being the highest one, normally average of 10,000, but they can last up to 20,000. Whereas CFLs can last somewhere near to 8,000 to 15,000 hours. But still, I have written the word CFLs. They typically have a longer lifespan, but it's true that it is observed that CFLs still last greater than your fluorescent tubes. But in my home, I think I have replaced them some 8 years back, I think so, but still they are working. I do operate them some 6 hours a day, and for the past 8 years, they have been working very safely, the fluorescent lamps. So I will believe that they do have 10,000 hours of time. And coming to warm-up time, as already said, incandescent lamps, they are instant illumination devices. They don't have any warm-up time. But whereas fluorescent lamps, they usually have a longer warm-up time before they reach their full brightness. It can take seconds, but in sometimes it may take minutes also if they are older to achieve the maximum light outputs. When compared to fluorescent lamps, CFLs are assumed they are considered to be having a very shorter warm-up time, so that they can reach their brightness more quickly. And coming to size options, as already said, coming to wattage point of view also, fluorescent lamps are available in various lengths, right? And customization is also possible based upon the lighting needs and fixtures. CFLs exclusively, which we call it as a compact fluorescent lamps, they are available in standard sizes, right? 13 watts, 23 watts, 42 watts. You go to your shop, you can buy all these things. You just go there and observe what is the size of these things. And they are available in screw-in or pin-based type of structures. And mercury content. This is already discussed. Incandescent lamps do not have any mercury, but whereas fluorescent lamps, they do have a small amount of mercury. But when compared to standard fluorescent lamps, compact fluorescent lamps have a little bit less amount of mercury. But anyhow, both do have mercury, which is basically considered as a greenhouse, which is assumed to have which is considered to have a greenhouse effect. So that's why we should handle them carefully and dispose them carefully in order to prevent environmental contamination. This is one of the problems with fluorescent lamps. And next is dimming capability, whether we can adjust the light or not. Traditional fluorescent lamps, they are not compatible. We haven't seen that in the characteristics of fluorescent lamps. But whereas some CFL models, they are designed to become dimmable. We are providing them, you can see in the internet also, they are providing compatible dimmer switches so that you can dim the light of a compact fluorescent. Not all the CFLs are dimmable, but only few of them, they are provided with this compatible dimmer switches. Okay. And coming to prices, compact fluorescent lamps are a little bit costlier when compared to traditional fluorescent lamps. You can purchase a tube light, it costs you somewhere around 40 to 50 rupees. But whereas if you can buy a CFL, it costs you somewhere around 100 to 120 rupees. Still, the compact fluorescent lamps are expensive when compared to traditional fluorescent lamps. But recently, the price of CFLs has decreased, but still, it is a costlier one when compared to traditional fluorescent lamps. And finally, availability. Still, in my home also, I do use this traditional fluorescent lamps, but in the future, maybe I'll be replacing this fluorescent lamps, traditional fluorescent lamps with compact fluorescent lamps. Okay. So, in commercial and industrial settings, offices, schools, and warehouses, we still are using fluorescent lamps. But whereas CFLs are more prevalent in residential applications, because we can find them in standard lamp sockets and fixtures around in homes, so we can easily replace them. So, modern day homes, they are fitted with compact fluorescent lamps. Okay. So, with this, I'll be closing this compact fluorescent lamp session, and the next one will be on LED lamps, the latest trends in the illumination schemes.